There's Peter of England. Hi, Peter.
Hello there.
We're talking about some ethnic minority issue,
Yeah.
which you're more known for a man talking about false debt and weary bank. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna just show in my own case where there's been a disproportionate number of ethnic minorities making impossible allegations against me, and we were sitting here wondering if there's anything more behind it. So I'm gonna go through the names. So we have the FCA Wilma Amartifio was accusing me that I'm not solvent to be a financial advisor when the solvency requirement was £10,000 and I had a property portfolio worth over 2 million. Then we had a CPS prosecutor, Dipan Vasani, who was put on a prosecution against me for trespassing in my own home, an impossible charge. And the court has since confirmed that he didn't lay any information to commence a prosecution. And he won't reply to correspondence. And by the way, my nephew Christopher Badaloo, who was living in the house, we've had 3 admissions of false prosecution from the CPS. And they've offered us even money for costs and compensation or whatever. Then we have the FCA again. They love me, don't they? Roger Hilton was a black guy. They put him in charge. He's a solicitor to accuse me of trespassing my house on the 1st of April 2015. And he presented a land registry document a year older or 6 months older or something when my name wasn't on the title. And an impossible job. Then we got the Chartered Insurance Institute holding up some false papers called Certificate of Conviction, which are not court orders. It's on YouTube. There is no court order. The court confirmed against me, Harrow Crown Court, Stephen Williams confirmed, there is no order against me, sealed nor unsealed. And yet they put this ethnic minority lady, Nirosha Teragajan, I think it's called, an impossible job. Then the probation service, Devi Palmer, they confirmed there was no court order, and yet they used violence and threats to force me to do, 100 hours of community service for trespassing in my house. And they know they don't have a court order. They put Devi Palmer in charge. And when I complained and stuff, they put Viola Dublin, a black lady. And Viola Dublin told me she's not allowed to help people. She's a very nice lady, actually. She's only allowed to enforce. So even when she knows there is no law and no court order, she was, pushing along. And Bhavesh Karia, same at the probation, he came and testified in court. And he did admit that there was no evidence I was served with nothing, and so on. But it's an ethnic minority again. Then we have Nikisha Robinson. She's from the Health and Safety Executive, where I broke my collarbone and they keep trying to wriggle out of it, with even illegally harassing my doctor, everything possible. So I won't get compensation or the facts of the case won't break down. Yet another ethnic minority. Then we have Samira Al-Hassan working for the probation company, MTC Novo. She's a solicitor. Now, eventually, she actually wrote to me and told me they don't have an order. And then suddenly disappeared. She doesn't work there, she's probably been sacked, I don't know. But these look like, we had another chap called, he's not on here, called Sergeant Persil from Barnet Police Station, who was trying to tell me that Manoj Gondia is a bailiff. And when he's not, trying to ram it down my throat. So all these ethnic minority people, by pure coincidence, is on my case. So let's see what Mr. Peter of England thinks about it. What do you make of all that, Peter?
Yeah, it's very interesting because this is the first time I've seen that list. Obviously, it would be the first time because I've had no exposure to it or the people. But what I can see and observe from this is, particularly as far as the UK is concerned, you don't tend to get it so much from what I can see in places like Germany and in France, or in Austria, or Switzerland. But you do tend to get it in the United Kingdom for some reason, which I can only put down to a deliberate conditioning or attempted social engineering conditioning of the populations to be forced to take a position of passivity and I should say obverse respect for the people that are trying to put authority statements or judgments against them. Because invariably these people that we've just seen on the video here mentioned are either first or second generation immigrants that have come into the country, and deliberately what I see not only in the police but also for jobs like parking attendants, anything to do with authority, front of house, front facing the public, we've got so-called minorities, ethnic minorities, in these positions, and invariably what the choice is, what's called there used to be a system called positive vetting. So for joining the police or security services or any of the services that require, should we say, positive attributes for qualifications or should we say social interpretations or politicalizations. What they were looking for with the psychological questioning that we'd give you is they were trying to root out a particular type of personality. They didn't want it in. They wanted people who were, like say in the police, open-minded or fair, or conversely, particularly racist, because the police have always been accused of being very, very racist. But what we actually got now in these services and in these environments is what's called negative selectioning or negative screening. This results in these offices being stocked almost entirely by two qualifications. One, invariably women, yeah, because they're always deemed to be probably more mild-mannered, and for women to go against women isn't usually in a sort of an aggressive fighting spirit. And for men to go against women, men always tend to be a little bit subservient and a bit more, shall we say, respectful or more chivalrous. Yeah. So one, they're playing a very, very primal, card here in the human tribe, or in the anthropological statements that we make to each other. The other side to it, though, is more insidious, and it's almost a very, very coercive and underlying seepage of genocide. If you want to look at what the definition of genocide is, please do. But to put it in a nutshell, what would happen is if a group in authority tries to undermine the religious, social, political aspirations and customs of a society and try to impose a different belief system, whether that's you can't put a cross up because it's going to offend, shall we say, Muslim populations at Christmas, or you can't refer to mother and father because these are gender specific, and as we all know, there are not two genders, there are about 150 genders these days, but that doesn't change the fact I am a man, someone else is a woman. I can't call myself a moose. If I decide to call myself a moose tomorrow, am I a moose? No, impossibility. So the point is that what we have is this current, this toxic current running through society, where in these positions of authority, seemingly, and they're minor levels of authority, because the white males are still in charge of the aldermen of the City of London and the worshipful companies of Scriveners, and the Masonic lodges. Go and have a look at the ethnic minority black influence into there. You'll find none of that in the 10,000 Masonic lodges. So what you're faced with at any moment you start to make a complaint against someone face to face or over the phone, there's always the potential for it to escalate into the accusation that you're being racist or you're being intolerant or abusive of a racial minority. And that is also transported right the way into any argument with anyone in a position of authority, whether it's the security people at the airport when you go through the check-in, or whether it's a policeman or a what are these patrol people that aren't fully police, they're just community support. Yeah. The moment you start to argue or question, even if it's very, very subtle, they start to say, well, hang on, you're seemingly being aggressive here, sir.
Yeah.
And you're not being aggressive at all. You're just wanting more information. But what they do then is they turn that into refusing the authority of the state. And they'll escalate it as quick as they can. Recently, and if you don't think it's going to come here, we saw a video about 3 days ago, a young guy in California, I'm not sure whether it was in Sacramento or wherever, he's just trying to board a train in the morning to take him to work, and he gets arrested and stopped. You know what for? For eating looks like a McFish chicken sandwich on the platform. What happened is the guy grabbed hold of him, said he was under arrest. It was contrary to the penal code of whatever in California, and they called help, support, arrested him, took him down to the police station for eating a chicken sandwich. I mean, what's it coming to? And so all I'm trying to say here is it's a lot more subtle than you imagine. It's creeping in by the day. It's possibly almost too late to change anything about it. But who are the people making the decisions? These are the permanent secretaries in Whitehall. These are the people that are career administrative agents within the political sphere, within the executive branch of government, who go into these positions at the age of 18 or 25 and are still there at the age of 65 or 70. The politicians like Theresa May and Javid Patel, is it?
Sajid Javid.
Sajid Javid, Priti Patel, they will all come and go. But the permanent secretaries remain in place. And these are the people who are doing the social engineering, the formulating of how they want to change society and basically bring people to their knees so they are compliant and they do not question authority. And this, unfortunately, is why these poor individuals that we have named here at the beginning are in effect being abused. They are being taken advantage of because they are being used as pawns by the puppet masters who want to make sure that now you can't basically, as it's coming, you can't tell a joke about an Albanian, you can't tell a joke about a Jamaican, you can't tell a joke about an Irishman or a Frenchman. Well, maybe they'll just about allow it with the French. But in effect, you can't get into joke land anymore because it's all too politically sensitive. And the moment we start to lose our humour, and the moment we start to lose the perspective on all of this and be able to call a spade, then we're in a very, very difficult position. And that's unfortunately where it's all going. And it's basically what they're looking to do is to trigger you at every possible moment, whether it's putting money in the parking meter, whether it's taking your children to school, no matter where it is, interacting with the local council over the phone or over the council tax office. They're trying to trigger you and build up this stress-related environment, because what's proven is that once a stress factor or enzyme is released into your body, what it creates and causes is an autoimmune system response. So the autoimmune system starts to attack itself, and this is what causes ill health, whether it's diabetes, whether it's high blood pressure, coronary problems,
stomach problems,
you name it, stress related,
IBS,
skin, acne, autism, everything is in effect coming from either a flight or fight response. So we've gone on a little bit longer than we anticipated here, but it's a very interesting subject and it's out there in your backyard even now. If you want to look at any more detailed commentators on stuff like this. Go and have a look at, if you haven't heard him, Milo Papadopoulos. He's quite good. He's a bit controversial, but he explains the stuff about gender politics very well. And also another guy called Ben Shapiro, both in the United States, but they're usually harbingers of what's really coming down here.
I'm going to put the camera back on the names. So you believe that these individuals who've been, all ethnic minorities, who've been given impossible allegations to make against me, one after the other. So perhaps they weren't thinking that I'm going to string it all together, or that it would be put together like this in one place and blown up on the internet.
Yeah.
So you believe these people, all of them being given impossible jobs, to accuse me of things that are not possible in fact and not possible in law, and everyone being ethnic minorities.
Yeah, it's almost like they're being used as dispensable fodder, or hand grenades that can be just thrown away, or reusable lighters. These people aren't particularly. I don't know about their education background. I don't know about what
they're all educated people.
Their political backgrounds are. But the one thing for sure is, by just looking at that in your particular case, whether they know who you are or not, it's too big a coincidence for these people in these public authorities, and also or private corporations at the end of it, positions. It's too big a coincidence for all of those right the way through from A to Z to just so happen to be. You would make a question normally. Which country are we in?
Exactly. Brazil.
This can't be the United Kingdom. And also, it's a very interesting point, because in Germany, where I've just come back from, and in France, where I've come back from, and from Austria and Switzerland, you look at is it Sayed Javid, who is is he Chancellor now?
Chancellor, Lord Chancellor, Lord High Chancellor.
The Lord High Chancellor, who was also the Home Secretary at the time when Julian Assange was taken out of the Ecuadorian embassy. Sayed Javid has been replaced by a lady now called Priti Patel, I do believe. So she's the Home Secretary. For an outside observer to hear names like that in British politics, you wouldn't get it in Germany. You wouldn't get it in Saudi Arabia. And if I was in Pakistan, imagine someone coming on as the Lord High Chancellor of the Pakistan government being named Peter of England, or Peter Smith, or Bob Jones. So what I'm trying to say to you here, from the Mayor of London right the way through to the political the political class, the 650 jackals in Westminster, what we're getting is an over-facing exposure to these minority groups after all. So don't forget, after all, these groups, the names we mentioned, the Patels and the Javids and the Khans, they are minorities. Yet in the positions in the positions of influence and control and authority, they're there in disproportionate numbers right the way through. So you just really have to ask yourself what's going on. But also you could equally say the exposure to the number of Scots in British government, and particularly in the UK Parliament, outweighs massively the number of Scots on a pro rata basis that obviously live in Scotland. Blair, the names, Cameron, we name but a couple. There's many more. So Reed. So they take out a disproportionate number. So that's really all I want to say now. And
thank you.